أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. We want to welcome our friends in South Africa, the United States, and around the world to this week's edition of A Conversation with El-Hajj Maury Salakan. I am pleased to be your host, coming to you once again through the Salah Media platform out of Johannesburg, South Africa. Salah Media is an online portal for humanitarian journalism. We don't just report the news, we advise you on what you can do about it. We have another very special broadcast scheduled for our listeners and viewers today. Our topic for discussion this afternoon, this evening in South Africa, is the challenges facing Muslim imams in America. Now, for those who may be unfamiliar with this terminology, an imam is a Muslim religious cleric, like a Christian minister or priest or a Jewish rabbi. The guests for this conversation are Imam Chad Earl, Imam Qasim ibn Ali Khan, and Imam Yusuf Rios. All three of these brothers have extensive resumes, but we're going to keep the introduction brief because we have three very accomplished brothers and only an hour for dialogue. In fact, at this point, less than an hour. Imam Chad Earl, a graduate of Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt, is the Director of Religious and Youth Affairs at the Islamic Center of Maryland in Gaithersburg. Imam Qasim ibn Ali Khan is resident imam and director at Masjid at-Tawheed in Houston, Texas. He is also the founder of At-Tawheed Educational Center. Imam Yusuf Rios, no stranger to our Salah Media audience, is also a religious scholar, a chaplain, and 1/3 of the three Puerto Rican imams Dawah and Relief Ensemble. With that bit of introduction out of the way, let me welcome our brothers to the program. Assalamu alaikum, Ikhwan.
Alaikum salam.
Welcome, assalam.
You got that echo again, my brother. Is Imam Yusuf with us? Yes.
Yes.
Now, brothers, among the challenges confronting our community as a whole are such socio-cultural, political challenges as the following. Faith-related challenges in the secular West, which also affects Muslims, especially young Muslims. Family, cohesion, and dissolution-related challenges. Foundational education challenges for our young. Control-related challenges in our religious and fraternal organizations, especially in some of our masajid and centers. Class, tribal, ideological, and sectarian challenges. Black Lives Matter related challenges. LGBTQ related challenges. COVID pandemic and pandemic-related conspiracy challenges, electoral politics-related challenges. Do we engage or do we not engage? And if we do engage, how should we engage? And interfaith challenges, especially as it pertains to the issue of Zionism. With that as an introduction, let us begin our conversation with question number one. What, in your opinion, is the single most important challenge for Muslim imams in America, and why? Each of you has up to 3 minutes for your opening response, and I'd like to begin in alphabetical order with Imam Chad. Your thoughts, my brother, on this question.
Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina wa Uswatina wa Habibina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, it's really wonderful to be here. Assalamu alaikum to all the brothers and sisters in South Africa and around the world who might be listening. May Allah bless you all and your families and keep you all safe and sound. Ameen. Alhamdulillah, I've been thinking about this question for quite a bit last few days. And I'm really actually excited to hear Imam Qasim and Imam Yusuf's answer. They're both my seniors, both in age and knowledge and experience. So I'm actually excited to hear their perspective on the issue. I'm quite new to this profession, if you will, to working in the Muslim community here in America. And it is my answer is a work in progress, to be honest with you. But one of the most important challenges that we face, if not the most important, is the challenge of relevancy, of being imams and leaders of the day, and you, mashallah, very succinctly mentioned so many challenges that we as a community face. And our leadership, in the same vein, must be leadership which is able to address and understand and reply to and respond to and guide the community in these issues. And to be honest with you, and the Imams can, they can give their own answers, but I find myself deficient in many ways. The training that we received is not always necessarily the training which is going to give us the answers to these problems. We learn a lot of fiqh, we learn a lot of usul, we learn a lot of this and that, but we don't necessarily always know how to deal with these challenges, and we're not taught in an academic sense how to deal with these things. So the issue of being relevant, of making sure we have the understanding and the knowledge about these issues to give appropriate answers, as the scholars say that things are understood by their definitions. That when we want to understand something, we start to define it, and if our definition is deficient, our answers to those challenges are also going to be deficient. So, our ability to be relevant, to understand the context and the world that we live in, and then also to have the charisma and the wisdom to guide the community along that path. Right? For example, you mentioned politics, and we have a lot of people in our community who are not really political, and they don't want to hear politics in the masjid. They don't want to hear politics in the community, but sometimes that's what's needed. That's what's needed in the day and the hour. Our community cannot put our heads in the sand and ignore what's going on around us. So sometimes that's needed. So how do you bring those people along? How do you engage them and uplift them and get them into the conversation when they're quite resistant to it? So those are some of the most important challenges. And I don't personally know if I have all the answers to how we do that, but as I said, I'm anxious to hear the other Imams and get their thoughts on the subject, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, my brother. Imam Qasim, what say you, my brother?
Assalamu alaikum Muhammad Rasulullah Mustafa Amin wa Ali wa sahbihi ajma'in. Yes, alhamdulillah, that's a very, very profound question. And I think about that challenge. The most important challenge is for Imams, those in positions of leadership, to ask Allah for the courage to not compromise the religion, because Islam is what was made perfect. And sometimes we don't know the difference as leaders and even as subjects. We don't know the difference between cooperating and compromising, or to try to work along with somebody. And this comes up with a lot of the what is quote unquote, for lack of a better term, interfaith dialogue. That term is very usefully used, but the important challenge is for imams and leaders of communities to have the courage to speak up and speak out based on what Allah and His Messenger says, and not be worried so much about trying to be politically correct or what may be acceptable to the people, because our validation should be sought only from Allah. We should only seek to be validated by Allah, to only seek the approval of Allah and His Messenger. And that takes commitment, that takes courage, and that takes the willingness to avoid compromise. That is the challenge. Because I can list some cases without mentioning names about some imams that were hired by boards of large masajid, and because they spoke up about the wrongs they see in the community, when they spoke up about the people who come to the masjid, they're businessmen, and they sell haram items and pork and alcohol and gambling and so forth, but they speak up against it. But then the administration of these particular masajid would reprimand them and admonish them because they were worried about losing the finances that are coming from those people. And that's just one point. So as Muslims, we need to be very, very careful that we don't compromise. That's the most challenging thing. This gay life, the gay rights so-called thing, you know, subhanAllah, some imams are afraid to speak out against it because they're afraid of what the people might say. When we think about Allah, what Allah said with a very prophetic hadith to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, when homosexuality becomes widespread in the land, Allah will lift his hand from creation and he will not care what valley they're destroyed. Okay, so Allah destroyed 2 cities over that. That's just one example. But yet there are some who are afraid to speak up. Some imams, they're afraid of that challenge because they're afraid of what some of the people might say. You know, like politicians are afraid of losing votes. So they won't stand up against a moral issue. So in these couple of 3 minutes that you allotted for this, I would like to conclude by saying that the most difficult challenge, the most challenging challenge, for lack of a better phrase or term, is to have the commitment, to seek the courage to speak up without compromising this beautiful and perfect religion.
Imam Yusuf, your thoughts, Aki?
Well, the other 2 imams made my job a little easy because they took up these points. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. And I appreciate the effort that was put into this. You know, there's a lot to be said. I think that and not speaking for Imam Qasim, but having some sort of relationship with Imam Qasim, I think that Imam Qasim represents a type of imam that doesn't really exist, which is an independent imam. So my take on this is that one of the single most important challenges that imams face is one of legitimacy. Legitimacy, the ability to define the role of the imam, and to have the space to be the imam, and to have the support, the emotional and economic support. And so if you have that, then you can continue your work, and you can work to see how to be relevant to the people. And you can also have that spiritual courage. But if your position is being defined by a board that has other interests, or if you're so caught up in your livelihood, it's going to be difficult to be an imam in the real sense. So I think the crisis is that the role of imam has definitely been redefined from what we understood it as it was defined within the indigenous community. But the new role that the imams have taken on, the new definition for what an imam is, really binds the imam just to be a symbolic figure, not even a leader. And so it becomes difficult to do any work, whether it is to be relevant in the community, whether it is to take actual stances, because you really don't have any leadership in the general community. And I want to throw back the time in that regard. So I think legitimacy is the number one issue right now.
Legitimacy. I want to thank all 3 of you brothers for your responses to that opening question. I want to invite each of you, because I want you to be really a driving force for this conversation, given the fact that each of you brothers are in the seat of, that responsibility of being an imam of a community. And so I'd like for you to be the driving force behind this conversation. Pick another challenge and share some thoughts on how we navigate that challenge, how we should navigate that challenge. Just again, begin with you, Imam Chad.
Jazakumullah khair. Amongst them, the challenges I see, Imam Yusuf touched on this a little bit. Part of one of the challenges as an imam is that you sometimes join a community if you're not from that community, and the community might be quite diverse in its background and its understanding of the religion and its historical practice of the religion. And though the ability for an imam to lead people that are not always on the same wavelength, and allow them to rally behind this person and kind of take their lead, so to speak. That's something that's communities like ours. Brother Moore, our community here quite well in Maryland. It's a diverse community, and there's a lot of perspectives. And trying to rally people around, behind one voice or one perspective, and without pushing anyone away or disrespecting anyone's views, trying to unify them kind of around a leader, quote unquote, or an imam, with their own understanding and vision about how the community should be heading. It's quite difficult, and people are not, they don't have that traditional, okay, this is the imam, we need to do what he says. That rarely exists. I've seen that very few times. People that are very friendly, very respectful, very good brothers and sisters in the faith, that traditional opinion of this is what the imam says and that's what we're going to do, that rarely flies. So that challenge of trying to unite the people around a certain vision or voice, unless you're all from that same perspective, that same methodology, it's very, very challenging. So that's something, again, that I look to people like Imam Qasim and Imam Yusuf for guidance on.
Imam Qasim, your thoughts.
Another challenge. I kind of like the grab bag that you provided for us to reach into the bag and come up with another challenge, because you actually can fill a bucket with the challenges. But near the top of this bucket that I reach for is the one where the parents are in denial and really understanding what the peer pressure is, what causes peer pressure for our children. In the Muslim community, there's a huge issue, a huge crisis, very huge crisis and challenge with the Muslim children being affected and infected with peer pressure. 95% of the Muslim children go to public schools, and so they're being infected with peer pressure, where they feel pressured to try to imitate or try to seek the approval of their peers who have no Islamic or moral training. And it causes problems in the Muslim community, especially as the children begin to grow up and develop and journey throughout their adolescent years into adulthood. Let me give you an example, and I'll be as brief as I possibly can. And this may sound like a rhetorical question, because I believe that all of us on this program now have children. I believe we do. I believe we're family men. How many times have we told our children, if you say your prayers, mommy and daddy will be happy with you. If you wear your khimar, wear your headpiece, wear your kufi. If you say your prayers, if you memorize some ayahs in the Quran, mommy and daddy will be very proud of you, right? Okay, we tell them that. And so we don't realize that we're subconsciously programming them to seek the approval of a human being. Then we send them out to the public. We send them to a public school. We send them to the marketplace. We send them to sports events and so forth, where we may not be with them, but we've already programmed their mind to seek the approval of human being. But then the human beings that they'll seek the approval of is not someone who has their best interests at heart. So then, in that weak state that they are, their peers that are around them, other human beings, are saying to them, if you smoke this cigarette, we'll be proud of you. If you take this joint, we'll be proud of you. If you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, if you have a baby, if you have sex, we'll be proud of you, and then we program them to seek that approval. Then they'll come home to the parents with these contaminated ideas, contaminated concepts, And we blame it on their peers. Oh, you shouldn't be around those kids because they're bad kids. But yet we have programmed them to seek the approval of human beings. But the human beings that they're seeking the approval of when they're not in our company is not someone who has their best interests at heart. And so my advice to the brothers and sisters of parents is to simply change our language. And I can conclude my response with this. Change our language. We should teach our children. If you say your prayers, if you wear your khimar, if you wear your loose pants, so forth, if you memorize Quran, Allah will be proud of you, and your mother and daddy will be happy because you're trying to please Allah. Then when we send them out to the public, then when we send them to the public school, to send them out in the public marketplace, then when their friends try to say, if you do such and such, that it's not good, we'll be proud. You say, yeah, but Allah won't be proud of me. You're trying to make Shaitan proud of me. So we need to change our language so that our children are not infected with the wrong type of peer pressure, because the weak parents in denial are the ones that's causing the peer pressure, and not their friends of their age group who they go with in the neighborhoods. That's a serious challenge that most of the parents are in denial about, because they're looking for somebody else to blame other than themselves.
Imam Yusuf, your thoughts, Aki? Another challenge.
I think another. I want to kind of keep close to where I was at. With the issue of legitimacy, and I think that because these issues that are being brought up by the other two imams have a lot to do with action, have a lot to do with being able to act. So I think decolonizing the role of the imam, because the Muslims have the general Muslim community. You have part of the Muslim community that really looks down on the role of the imam and has limited the role of the imam to just be symbolic. And so we have to, the challenge is re-identifying what the role of the imam is, so that the imam can have that impact, in building community, or in the issue of affecting change, as much as possible amongst families and amongst youth, but without, decolonizing that role and giving the imam role new meaning in the general Muslim community, because all segments of the Muslim community are not operating off of this limited imam concept. It becomes difficult to make any moves, because if you go right or left, if you try to get involved with the youth, or you say, I've had that even as an Islamic studies teacher, where I mentioned certain points, and then all of a sudden the other teacher, who's not even a trained imam or has no real relation to scholarship, will come and try to correct me. Well, the parents are going to say this, and they're going to come back to the board, and this, that. So we have, decolonizing the role of the imam allows it to have leadership, so that leadership can effect change. Like Imam Chad was saying, really we have a community which is just like, oh, it's nice, but who are you? Because deep down inside, if you look at certain segments of the community, they don't believe that the imam has any real value, even any real intellect, because he's not a doctor or a lawyer, engineer, or computer scientist in that regard. So I think decolonizing the role to try to bring about change, and the reason being is because the way that the Muslim community has shaped the role of the imam it has made it irrelevant. And really, technically, by doing that, you have made Islam irrelevant, right? And so I think that that is the second challenge on a more practical level.
I like that term, Imam Yusuf, decolonizing the role of the imam. On that note, I want to come back to you, Imam Qasim, on a issue that generated quite a bit of controversy throughout the country. But a good part of it was in Houston, the Houston, Texas area, because of a statement that ended up coming out from an interfaith body that you were a part of. Everyone is aware of the tremendous catastrophe that has been visited once again in a very intensive way on occupied Palestine. And this is something that resonates in the hearts of so many of us, both within the fold of Islam and outside the fold of Islam. There's a tremendous resonance of this apartheid state of ethnic cleansing and genocide taking place. In fact, just a day ago, after this new coalition has come into power, another aerial attack was made on Gaza. SubhanAllah. There's been tremendous tension and controversy throughout the country, throughout the U.S. and in other parts of the world, vis-a-vis positions taken by Muslim leaders, whether they be political leaders, thought leaders, community leaders, etc., religious leaders. And again, a tremendous amount of attention was brought to the statement that came out of Houston. As someone who was a part of that controversy, what do you have to say to those who did not have a frontal view on the drafting of that statement and the controversies on the ground that emanated from it? What do you have to say about that, Imam?
First of all, may Allah reward you for bringing that very important topic up in this forum, because it's very, very important that when I was first approached by those who originated that forum or that platform, my understanding at the onset and throughout, because I was only in on one actual meeting, my understanding was that they merely wanted to open the dialogue to try to correct the problem, to open the dialogue with people of different faiths, to open dialogue and try to communicate to see what could be done to eliminate this problem that's been going on for generations. And I always have affirmed that dialogue, the open dialogue, is the very best. Excuse me, I have to decline a call that was trying to interrupt this. The open dialogue is the only way, the communication is the only way to deal with a problem, deal with a situation, to deal with opposing opinions. And so when I was asked to sign on to it, after they've had several other meetings, I only signed on to it based on my initial impression of what the purpose was. And I felt comfortable because I thought that the purpose was only to open dialogue to try to solve the problem. It was a very serious issue. I'm very passionate and very emotional about the suffering and the exploitation and the oppression that is being imposed upon, not only in the Gaza and Palestine, but many other countries where people were being oppressed, where it doesn't even make it to the news, in the Congo and Uganda and so forth. I'm very passionate, emotional about that. But however, if I was to discover, and I'm going to reach out to that organization after this call, if I was to discover they had any other motive or intention other than just trying to open communication to solve it, then I would step away from it. Because there's no way in the world that I would deliberately compromise this thing and try to compromise the care and the help and the assistance and the correction that is needed to eliminate the injustices being imposed upon the people of the world, not only in Palestine and in China and in Uganda and so forth, but other places. There's over 100 countries where this is being done, but on certain countries make it into the news. But that was my impression up until I just recently heard some other opposing opinions about it, where it was only supposed to be a platform to open a dialogue to correct the situation. If there's anything else that's intended by this group, then I will publicly stand on top of the world and deny any association with it. I need to get clarity myself, and I hope that my points were clear. And thank you, Brother Mario, for bringing that up.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, my brother, for your response. Imam Chad and Imam Yusuf, this issue of the penetration, the normalization of relations with groups that are hardcore Zionists in the United States through interfaith dialogue. I've been a witness to this for many years. I have, I felt in a very diplomatic way, in a very, sensitive to the feelings of everyone involved, the people that are well-meaning involved, especially the Muslims. I've tried to speak to this issue on a number of occasions over the years, sometimes in masajid and centers. The vast majority of masajid and centers in America, they have these interfaith dialogues, these interfaith communications, these programs that take place from time to time. And, you can oftentimes see if you're really looking at and looking at what is taking place and listening to what is being said, and also the players involved. I mean, some of these individuals, they come from organizations that and sometimes synagogues, large and small, that are very pro-Israel. They don't try to hide it. But we have these dialogues whose aim is normalization. Oftentimes through these dialogues, opportunities can open up for Muslim representatives of certain communities to be able to go overseas, over to the Middle East, and to be able to go places that the native Palestinians are not able to go. The natives of the land are not able to go. And then they come back and they, talk about how wonderful the trip was. And again, it's all part of a normalization of relations with Zionist campaign. And it's been something that has turned my stomach when I've gone to the, couple of the major conventions, when they've had speakers, from the Jewish community that come from some of these organizations that are very pro-Zionist and make no pretense of it. And you can see the Jewish rabbis of Neturei Karta, the anti-Zionist Jewish rabbis, Hasidic Jews of Neturei Karta, kind of, on the sidelines. It has irked me to the max. What are your thoughts on this new opportunity, as I see it, where we are now? This is a new opportunity in the wake of Black Lives Matter, in the wake of all of the social, the consciousness around justice-related issues, whether it's racial justice, political justice, various other forms of injustice and justice. What do you think about this prescient moment that we're in right now, as it pertains to the issue of Zionism and how it has been able to penetrate Muslim discourse in very counterproductive ways? Again, coming back to that terminology that our brother Imam Yusuf used, this is an opportunity for the decolonization of our communities. What say you on this issue, Imam Chad? First you, and then we'll hear from Imam Yusuf.
Well, it's as you said, it is an opportunity that we're in, and a time that we're in to rethink not only our tactics but our objectives. The immigrant Muslim communities, a lot of them, as they were being established, they were looking for a friend.
Yeah.
They were looking for, they felt that, like, the little guy, the new kid at school, and in a group of bullies, and they're looking for someone to have to be a friend, even if they're not a perfect friend. And that's understandable to a degree, but not to the extent that we lose our morals and our understanding of what truth is and where we should stand on these issues, nor be silent about these issues. But you're right. We're in a time it's a time for us to really step back and rethink some of these activities, and You know, I'm not personally one for closing doors when there's some benefit in keeping doors open, but if it requires us to be silent about the cause of the Palestinians, and I mentioned this, you might have been there, Brother Mori, you know, a few weeks ago. I personally believe that the Palestinian cause is the cause of this ummah. That if we can liberate Palestine, if we can do justice to our brothers and sisters in Palestine, we could, with Allah's permission, do justice to any cause of oppression around the world. Like, this is the heart of this nation, is, you know, is with this cause and this people. So if we let go of that and that reality and the importance of that mission for the sake of, you know, photo ops or the sake of quote unquote building bridges, you know, I think we've lost the plot. To be fair, you know. So I mean, Imam Yusuf, you know, I'm you know, always benefiting from his reflection. So I'm happy to pass that over to him, inshallah.
There's no doubt that it's a difficult time period that we're in because of the clash of different moral moral orientations. There's a clash. I mean, and the system is set up that way. You know, capitalism, where is that right now, is set up that way. It was going in that direction a long time ago to unpin people's moral commitments, allows the markets to have more dominance, and it allows for things to be moved in certain directions. And with this rise of individualism, which comes along with, you know, the neoliberal economy, you know, it creates a sense where there is no direction, there is no solidarity. I think that the reality of when we start talking about the Zionist organizations is that they're extremely organized, and they're extremely organized, and they invest in their leadership, whether it's religious or not religious. There's a vacuum in the Muslim community in real leadership. The professional community has opted for certain models of leadership in the Muslim community which are not bringing us tangible results. It's like, you know, so interfaith dialogue is a part-time event where I'm going, and some brothers have even told me I'm not even qualified, and I'm there, you know, and I'm dealing with a rabbi and a priest and this and that, and I'm not qualified. And so we haven't invested in the leadership which can handle our affairs politically and can handle our affairs intellectually to be able to understand how to navigate. And that comes because the professional community has secularized the way that we operate as a community, and it has tied the role of imams, so imams can't develop themselves to be real leaders. Imams are restricted. So imams come in, and as soon as you learn your fundamentals of the deen in a so-called institution that legitimizes you, you're delegitimated by the Muslim community. So you don't get time to get that experience. This experience is very much different than what was happening in the African American community. And that's why in the African American community, you had imams like a Ward of Dean or whoever, they began to emerge. And even in Ward of Dean's community, they tried to tie his hand at some point. But it's more so within the immigrant communities that the imams are tied. So there is a vacuum leadership, and we have to realize, when a segment of the population is taking control of the community and they're not citizens, they're on a visa, or they don't know what their political position is, they are going to take political positions to navigate that political reality. We're not in that situation, right? We're not in that type of situation politically with the system. So we're not worried about our visa status. We're not worried about, placating to certain interests in that way. But that type of persona that doesn't have that type of political commitment is marginalized. You see what I'm saying? So that's a big problem, that integration is what's driving the politics of the Muslim American community. It's not the interests of the Muslim community as a whole in this country or even the Ummah. It is integration into white society and integration to maintain economic and political status, which means your papers. So that's the leadership that we have. You know what I'm saying? And so that leadership hasn't amounted to anything in terms of guiding the community politically, or even going back to other things, educating the Muslim community so that they can navigate in this society. You see what I'm saying? It has tied our hands. And so now what we have seen, and I'm closing with this, if you remember, and I'm going to name names, if you remember, there was an outburst and controversy with the position that Sheikh Hamza Yusuf had taken, along with Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayah, who I respect highly, when it came to the UAE and normalizing relations with the Zionists. If you paid attention, we're in a new phase. We're in a phase now where the UAE is taking over how the da'wah in the US manifests itself. Dubai now is what is impacting the da'wah in the US. And so they had laid down the direction that the community was going to go in. And they had marginalized activism. They didn't want activism. They want a different type of discourse to come in as to how Islam should be played out in this society. So what took place with the UAE is exactly what has taken place with our organizations in recent times. We would not have seen it if it wasn't for the case that the Palestinian situation reemerged. We would not have known it. But we saw it in New York. We saw it in Texas. We saw it in a number of places that, you know, that type of normalization was taking place. But it wasn't only with the Zionists in the case of the Palestinians. It was also with the issue of the Modi government and how the Modi government had normalized relationships with the Zionists, and how there's a certain segment of the community in Texas which had aligned itself with the Modi government, which is the complete opposite of what you're seeing in the Chicagoland area. So politically, that is going on because we have a vacuum. You can't have a part-time, you can't have a president of the masjid whose job is to be in a factory, even if it's a Fortune 500 company, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Come and try to lead the community and navigate things, which needs independent thought and effort. So we have part-timers that are not fully committed, that don't have even Islamic knowledge to be able to navigate this, really directing our communities. And then we have organizations, and I'm sorry to be a little long-winded, but I wanted to complete this thought. We have organizations which have created a concept of Islamophobia that keeps fundraising coming in, but has no real impact politically. See what I'm saying? And then you just have you have lobby groups which have openly opted to be part of Zionist groups. You know what I'm saying? So we're in a quagmire because we don't have the leadership. And I think the more that we identify that the leadership is not there and the qualifications are not there, and that we need to redefine these positions, the more that we do that, it's going to force some sort of change. Right?
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for that response, my brother. Something, I knew that this the time was going to fly by. We are nearing the end of this broadcast. We're in the final minutes. What I wanted to do, the final question I want to put to you all, and I want to show a little piece of video before you deliver your final response, your closing responses, inshallah. I want to just make very brief reference to the fact that this pandemic, as painful as it has been for so many people around the world, this global pandemic, of which America was at one time viewed as the epicenter, is an opportunity for a reset. It is an opportunity for a reset. There's a tremendous amount of pain and a tremendous amount of need in this moment, material as well as spiritual. And on that note, what I want to do is I want to show a little piece of a video of what alhamdulillah, Imam Qasim's community has been engaged in Houston, Texas. I mean, it's a demonstration of another dimension of Islam, a very beautiful, a very relevant dimension of Islam. I want to show that, and then after that very short piece of video ends, I'd like for each one of you, beginning with you, Imam Chad, and then Imam Qasim, and then you Imam Yusuf, to give some closing thoughts on the opportunity for reset that we are experiencing in the wake of this pandemic. With that said, let's show the video, Brother Sadek.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is your brother Qasim. This is an unusual update. I want to show you just how we multitask here. Okay, you see there at the clinic, we were taking temperatures, and we're also being approved for COVID testing. That's one of our security vehicles. This is our hot food vehicle, and this is our one of our security vehicles here too, the community response, where we let the community see that we're patrolling the whole area. Another food truck. This is we bring visitors to the masjid in our van. This is our pickup truck for small household items, and also at the same time we're renovating the outside of the masjid. Alhamdulillah. Those are the small domes for the 6 minarets that's going to be over the masjid, inshallah. Okay, as you can see, the covered walkway is almost complete. Now you see our furniture truck there, but we don't have furniture on it this time because we got so much food shipped into the masjid for us to package and deliver that we had to use the furniture truck. But as you can see, we don't put limitations on the work that we do because we have so much to do. We do need more helpers, more volunteers. Here's the inside of the truck. It's almost empty now. It's about 2/3 empty. This is one of our volunteers here rolling the cart up to get ready so the brothers could load it. And then this is the entrance here into the main lobby. And what we're doing, we use our multi-purpose room now, since we don't have those type of taleems now, to as a staging area. There goes one of our volunteers, Brother Jamil. Wave hello, say assalamu alaikum, Brother Jamil. Alhamdulillah. Brother Abdul Hakim, say wave. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Abdul Hakim. Alhamdulillah. And so this is our staging area where we organize and package the food that we will take out to the community. Most of it, though, we'll do an open gate giveaway, food giveaway, probably, I think, maybe next week or the weekend after, inshallah. All right, and then about here is our storage area that we built about a year ago in the masjid, in the back of the masjid, where we store our food supplies. This is that we don't take to our major warehouse. Our main warehouse is about 3 or 4 blocks away on Jensen Street. It's 5,000 square feet. And this is one of our new coolers that was donated to us, or the funds are donated to purchase it about 2 weeks ago. Alhamdulillah, as you can see, it's stocked full with perishables, vegetables, and so forth that just got shipped in. That's some of the work we're doing. We still need more money, though. Don't think that we're loaded down with money. We're actually living from dua to dua, doing all of these community services. Please come down and pay a visit, take a tour, and volunteer some help and some money, inshallah. Your brother Qasim. Assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah. You know, that's what I call holistic dawah, being relevant to pressing material need. And again, we're in still in the throes of a global pandemic. And instead of you, Imam Chad, let's close out with 2 minutes from Imam Qasim following that video, and then we'll come to you, Imam Chad. Imam Qasim, what are your final thoughts on this topic that we've been dealing with today?
Alhamdulillah. My final thoughts is this. I came to my journey to Islam came through the nation of Islam, a diluted form of true Islam. But one thing that I kept is a desire to keep working. And when I was taught to only fear Allah, that means I don't fear sleep. I don't fear being tired. I don't fear being hungry. I don't fear being broke. I don't fear being cold or wet or sleepy. I only fear Allah. And that's the work that we do. And I refuse to compromise. And when we talk about bridge building, I'm only trying to build a bridge.
Yes, subhanAllah, we lost our brother. Yeah, it looks like we lost him. Inshallah, Imam Chad.
Yeah, Bismillah, inshallah.
Your final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, alhamdulillah, it's a wonderful effort they're doing. As you said, this is the time to reset ourselves. Unfortunately, a lot of people, as we're opening up, quote unquote, we're kind of forgetting that reality, and we're losing the opportunity very, very quickly. I mean, just within a few days and weeks, we seem to just want to go back to what that state we were in before all this happened. So, you know, this is a time to reflect and remind ourselves, like, wait a second, we were really struggling just a few days ago. Don't get it twisted that we might not be in that situation again. We have to recenter ourselves and our activities and our mission as a community. And yeah, alhamdulillah. Thank you again for inviting us, and may Allah bless everyone at Salam Media and their families. I mean,
Imam Yusuf, you have the final word, my brother.
I mean, I think that what Imam Shad was saying about keeping focus is important. And unfortunately, you know, Imam Qasim, I've actually been there to Fifth Ward in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Imam Qasim represents, you know, a dying breed of an Imam. I think that we need to have more projects like that, where it's less politically, there's good politics and then there's just empty politics. Our institutions are burdened by empty politics and minimal work. Imam Qasim's model is very community oriented. I've been there. I've seen what he does. And so the reality, I think we need more projects like that. And I think, like what Imam Chad is saying, we have to have focus, right? And so we need vision. We're lacking vision as a community, and we're lacking impact. And I think that this is the time where we regroup and we think about that, how to create models where we can actually work versus being caught up in the politics and the lawsuits and the breakdown. This is actually an intentional breakdown in the community, right? And so I think COVID showed us that in many ways imams are very important, because what people were looking for was people to guide them. What people were looking for was consultation. They were not so much concerned about the very expensive rug or chandelier or anything like that. They were looking more just for somebody to be there and a sense of direction and guidance. So I think vision, you know what I'm saying, being very clear that we still have challenges before us, and investing in projects which are direct and impactful, right? And that means redefining our understanding of leadership.
Absolutely. I want to conclude the broadcast by thanking all three of you. And I'm going to make sure I pick up the phone and give a call to Imam Qasim. We lost him, but alhamdulillah, he was with us for the entire broadcast, all the way to the very end. I really appreciate what each of you had to say for this very challenging topic. It was a very, very challenging topic to have to deal with, the challenges confronting Muslim imams in America. The challenges are great. We just touched the surface of them, but I really have a tremendous amount of love and respect for each of you brothers and for the work that you're doing. May Allah Ta'ala bless you to continue in the work and to grow in the work. There's a saying of the great freedom fighter Frederick Douglass that is very dear to my heart. He said, "A man is worked on by what he works on. He may carve out his circumstances, but his circumstances will carve him out as well." I know that each of you has grown tremendously by shouldering the responsibility of being an imam, especially in this environment, under these socio-political conditions. And all I can say is, may Allah Ta'ala fortify you, and may Allah Ta'ala guide you, may Allah protect you, and may Allah bless you to continue to be a positive impact for those who you're able to access in whatever form you're able to access them and influence them. So with that, I thank you, brothers, for being with us today. I know that everyone who watched this live and those who will see it later as it's being shared will benefit. Peace be unto you, my brothers. Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah. I want to end as I normally do, with the prayerful verse from the Quran, from Surah Al-Aqsa. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal Asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amalu salihati. Wa tawasaw bil haqq. Wa tawasaw bis sabr. Which means, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, by the token of time through the ages, verily humanity is in loss, except those who believe and do good, and exhort one another to truth, and exhort one another to patiently persevere. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the rest of the day for those of you who are along with me in the Western Hemisphere, and to our brothers and sisters in South Africa and other parts of that part of the globe who see this. May Allah ta'ala bless you with a peaceful night's rest and a happy morning's rise. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.